Alright, so this is what I've came up with to get this engine onto this bike. Yes, this is some pretty thick steel. It's what I had laying around, but the motor's not going to be moving at all. So what I end up doing is welding the plate right to the jack shaft. So this jack shaft and this plate is one piece. And then this is a two-stroke mount. They're for extension mounts. I've used them for motor mounts too, for the 212s. Use that in the front. That way you could take this whole piece off if you decide, if I decide to put on a different bike or something like that. This all comes right back off. I didn't want to make, I could have made it solid to the bike, but I figured this way it's not solid and it's easy to take off. So I'm waiting on the collars to get here. As soon as the lock collar gets here, we can get chains lined up. But for right now, I can go ahead and get the motor on, get the fuel line, and get the throttle cable on. And what I did for the shifter, to make it easy to shift, I took the handle grip, cut the outside of it off, and then just stuck it right here. So now you can just shift. That way this hand you're shifting with, this hand runs the throttle. It should make it fairly, because I had it to where they were next to each other, but then you would have to go to the throttle to grab that, and this just seems to be way better. I haven't rode it yet, but so we'll go ahead and get the motor on and go from there. Alright, so I got the motor just kind of bolted in. There's one bolt back here and the two in the front. Same way I had with the original bike I had this motor on. Seems to hold pretty good. So for right now, for an exhaust clamp, I'm just going to use a hose clamp and clamp it. I'm running this seat, so it's got these bars that come down in the rear. And one problem I did run into, which I got it figured out, is the pedals were smacking right here, and these are the extended arms, and they were still hitting. So what I did is here's another one, that center section right before the pedal and the bend, I took that section out and then re-welded it back together, so now it looks like that. And now I got about that much clearance in there, and I got it pretty straight back to where it needs to be, so it doesn't feel all wonky when you're trying to pedal it and stuff like that. So I'm literally just waiting on the shafts. So as soon as they get here, I'll get them slapped on, and we'll take this thing out for a ride. Alright guys, got this thing all figured out now. So what I end up doing is I took an old bicycle, it's another tensioner for another bike, and used just the two top holes and mounted it to the jack shaft itself, and that allowed me to run that tensioner right there. And now everything moves nice and free. And so everything's good there. I may be swapping out to this intake right here. It goes right there. And then I can run like a speed carb or something like that, just to put a better carb on this thing. I noticed that they were running it really, really fat, pulled the cap off, and they had the needle raised one notch up, which that's why this thing smoked so bad, because it's just getting way too much fuel. So I actually, instead of going in the middle, I went up one notch from the middle and left one more, but it seems to like the throttle response is a lot snappier now. So eventually we'll run this and put a speed carb on it, but I'll go ahead and start it and try to run it, see if I can run it through gears holding onto the camera. But you can see how good it works. So we're gonna take this thing out, get it out, and we'll take it for a ride. You can see how much smoke's coming out the pipe. It's just got a lot of oil built up inside the pipe, so we got to burn that off. And then in the meantime, if it feels like it wants a little bit less fuel, then we'll go ahead and bump that needle up to clip up one more time. So I'll go ahead and get it off here, and then we'll get it outside and test this thing out.
guys. You guys can see it's kind of windy, but for what it is, I think it's doing pretty good. We definitely can still do some upgrades, like I said, to the carb and put a big bore kit on this thing, but it's showing potential. My gas. Burned through all the gas. Well, I burned through all the gas. I thought I had enough gas in this thing. Well, I guess I was wrong. So now we get to pedal this thing back to the house. Thank God it's easy to pedal. Well, I won't bore you guys with me pedaling back to the house, so I'll see you guys back at the house. Alright guys, this thing is not bad to pedal. I just had to pedal this thing about a mile to get back to the house. I thought I had more fuel than what I did. I should have checked a little bit better. But for a bone stock 49cc pocket rocket motor, I don't think it's doing bad for what it is. And I think I saw 37 miles an hour. I'll have it displayed on the video so you guys can see. I got to third gear, but beyond that I couldn't really pull it because how windy it was. And so I think just swapping out that intake with a better carb, and then maybe a big bore kit on this thing, and maybe a good pipe. This thing should rip. I think it'll go pretty good for what it's doing right now. Especially with this transmission being such a high transmission. So I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you guys want to help the channel out, I'll leave a link below. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys are having a good day.